Good evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And again, thank you for the veterans and their family sacrifices. It's always appreciated. All right. Purpose of this evening's meeting is a public hearing on the fiscal 24 budget. This is to discuss the fiscal year 2024 budget. If anyone has not signed up that may want to speak, I would appreciate you take a minute to do so at this time. Okay.
Chief, how you doing, man? Good. You guys can talk about yourselves now. How about that sports team last night?
Only one name, please.
I was trying to fill as many as I could.
All right. I think at this point, probably I'll turn it over to Ms. Rachel.
Sure, I'll just give a quick high-level overview if that's all right. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this meeting is to hold the public hearing for fiscal year 24 proposed budget. This is the opportunity for those citizens wishing to be heard on the budget to make that public comment. The fiscal year 24 proposed budget does provide for a 1.42% increase in the millage rate from 4.003 mils to 4.06 mils. Unfortunately, because of the way state law is written in regards to a rollback, the city will need to advertise an increase of 24.35%. However, that is not the increase to the millage rate. That is simply the increase over the rollback rate. And that percentage is higher because it includes the growth in the digest that is attributable to reassessment or increases in home values, not an increase to the millage rate as levied by the city council. The increase in the millage rate, regardless, from 4.003 to 4.06 equates to an annual increase to the average homeowner of about $3.42. So if you've got an average home with if you're an average property homeowner here with a fair market value of $150,000 home, this millage rate from 4.003 to 4.06 would equate to $3.42 a year for you. With that being said, some significant items included in the fiscal year 24 budget. In the general fund, we've included some funding for stage and presentation equipment. We included funding for year 2 of the 3-year New World purchase for PD. We've included cleanup day and additional funding in the Public Works Department for tree removal. We are also including proceeds from the sale of a building in fiscal year 23 that will be set aside for pothole repair by the Public Works Department. And in conjunction with LMIG funding, we're setting aside money for the Hammond project. In parks, there's funding for storm drainage in Roberts Bridge Park. And specifically in the utility fund, we have some notable items, including a purchase for prepaid sewer capacity for the city itself, as well as smoke testing and water infiltration testing. That is a high-level overview of notable items in the fiscal year 24 budget. And I believe with that overview, we're ready to open the public hearing unless there's questions I can answer for council.
You don't have any questions for Rachel?
That storm drainage money, is that part of that? I think it was 6,000 that we were told about a couple of months ago. Or do you know, there's like 6,000 sitting in some random account that the guy that's part of a grant years ago and forgotten about?
Yeah, that's what they were talking about, fixing that bridge there down at the park.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I believe that was
No, That, this
So we can't come
particular
forward with
one
a
is,
grant.
has nothing to do with the bridge on 211.
No,
No.
Lee was talking about the bridge that's in the park. that's
Yeah, the
getting
trail.
in-
Yeah.
The trail bridge
Yeah.
right there is getting in poor condition.
Correct.
Okay.
That's
Just-
40,000 we talked about.
Right.
Okay. Just wanted to clear that up in my head before we moved on.
Okay, that is the area we're talking about fixing that.
Okay, good deal.
Chief, you had mentioned that you wanted to make sure that things that were purchased in fiscal '23 from surplus was not included in the '24. Did
yes, sir.
you see anything that should have been? I explained to the chief that you took all AP up to date and took that out of the fiscal '23's budget. And he was concerned that that list of things that he wanted to put into '24, we determined they still had funds, let's do this for '23.
Specifically, those were the $8,000, what specifically was removed from fiscal year '24 for what was purchased in '23.
There was some K-9 items,
Thanks for ammunition.
It was,
Yeah.
I can tell you I have a
I
sheet.
didn't take out any of those other
is that
items.
the monitors as well? Do you remember the whole list of?
Yes, sir, I
things
do.
that- Because it was about,
There's several different things, but one was the, under line, account line item 61105. It's gonna be the mobile, that's out of the K-9 budget. It was, $12.99 that we already have received.
hold on before you move forward here.
Yes, sir.
You're saying you do see that or don't see that? I'm trying to understand what's going on. That's not, it's gonna be an expense.
Yeah.
That's not an expense. There. That's not an expense. So football is 100%?
Yes.
We don't do that.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
There was a tracking collar that was relatively expensive.
Yes.
Was that accounted for already?
Yes, we do.
Okay, you got it,
Yes, sir, we have it in hand.
but was it accounted for out of the '23?
Let me, look at everything.
It's not an expense I was given for fiscal year '24. It's not, it is not included in fiscal year '24.
It's not in '24, okay. Because there were several things that, had to do with the K-9, and you and I talked that the monies were there, let's not put it off until the '24. because-
That's why none of those are incorporated
Okay.
in fiscal year
So it's
'24
already been
budget.
fixed then?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
These are not consumables that we're talking about, right?
Meaning,
Meaning they gotta be replaced.
no, this is equipment purchases.
Okay.
So, I can't remember what specifically that 8,000 was for.
There was some leash, a dog leash, a tracking collar in case the dog got into the woods or something. And
Right,
Garmin GPS unit for
that was the high dollar, and it wasn't like super high dollar.
$1,049.99.
The rest of it was like $12 here.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ammo
$6.
for 2840?
Yes, we did get ammo as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Here, what else? We went on and did the wrap on the white tar.
Okay,
That was, $1,750, for the white tars that we have. We did get the wrap done, it is completed.
Is that the newer one?
Yes, sir, that's
Okay.
correct.
So it has lights wrapped?
We just have a wrap on it, we haven't, ticket to the upstairs yet.
Okay.
We're trying to get it live.
But that's already been, that's a 23
Yes,
budget
sir.
item, so
Yes, sir.
we're good on that.
Yes, sir, we are.
There's 4 vehicles involved with different levels of items.
Yes, sir, that's correct. That's basically everything else. I just wanted to make sure it was taken out, so there was no confusion.
Yeah.
But that's correct.
Mayor, I have a comment, as well. Wanted to bring it to the council's attention. I talked with the chief just the other day about New World, and, then I talked with the mayor about this, and I wanted to throw it out there for the council and possible discussion, but, contacted Rachel to make sure that there's funds available, but we have about $60,000 that could go ahead and get us New World Solutions year one. So out of this year's budget. So if we went ahead and did that as a city, then the first year would be paid out of this year's budget, and then we would budget for the next 2 years, obviously, to finish up paying off the software. So the incoming council would need to finish paying off the 2 years, but year one would be paid for now, and then we budget year 2 in this current budget, and then the following year would need to be year 3. The chief sent over a contract, should be in everybody's email, for New World. It is New World.
Yes, sir.
New World,
Mhm.
and it's been forwarded on to the attorney as well. And I spoke with the mayor about it. I think everybody is kind of on the same page as far as trying to get this done this year.
Yeah, I think it's a good segue. We have a gentleman here from the county, correct?
Yes, sir.
And, if you would, introduce yourself. I don't want to bounce around, but like I said, it'd be a good segue.
Sure.
He's very familiar with New World, and this would be the guy, I guess, that if you have questions, he's going to do a small presentation and then take questions if you have them, so we know what we're getting.
Sure, absolutely. I am Major Tim Hines with the Bear County Sheriff's Office. I am the Sheriff Services Division Commander and also the System Administrator for New World Software. So I'm very familiar with the software itself, and it's my pleasure to be able to present to the council and the audience some of the benefits of the city coming on board with New World Software. So this is a records management software for public safety. Just a quick overview. Hopefully it won't take too many minutes of your time. Quick history, the Sheriff's Office recognized a reason to get a new solution for their records management. Several years ago, we formed a committee. We sent out emails and notifications throughout the state to see what other agencies were using. And, you know, some of their recommendations and some of their warnings, what to avoid that they run into. And then we started doing site visits throughout the state, looking at different software products out there. And we presented the sheriff with a list of our top 3 choices, and New World was the #1 choice on there. We put it out to bid. New World was the winner of the bid, and so in August of 2015, we went live with the New World records management software. So we've been on it coming up on 8 years now. So and there's quite a few agencies especially in North Georgia, and also including Augusta, Richmond County, and then several south of there who are on this software. So just to go over some of the interoperability, there's a mobile application that's designed for your in-car laptop software. It will receive the calls of service from the 911 center, so all that information will populate up there on the officer's laptop computer. The officer is able to run inquiries of several different computer databases, including GCIC, NCIC, and local information that we have and that we share among the sheriff's office, the 911 center, Winder PD, and then also fire and EMS or dispatch does the same thing, as well as Auburn PD. There's also what we call Learn, which is a law enforcement records management software, more of a desktop software. It's your main records database. All the information is compiled in there, and you're able to assign and manage cases from that software from the desktop for follow-up investigations. We have the corrections module, so you'd have access to inmates that we have. We all deal with the same people. They're all from the same area here, so that information would be available to the city officers as well, if they're looking for a suspect or if they need more identifying characteristics, descriptions. They are able to access that as shared data. And then, of course, the computer-aided dispatcher CAD, all the call notes, all the 911 calls are accessible through this software. So some of the benefits with the mobile application, the officer no longer needs to request times and case numbers over the radio. So you're saving time, you're freeing up the radio traffic. We all share a radio channel, so sometimes it's hard to get across there to get some free airtime. So it helps with that. The CAD notes are directly available on the dispatch screen, so it reduces the need of dispatcher to repeat information they already gave, like the address. You don't have to keep asking what address it is, there were the numbers or anything like that. It updates the officer in real time with notifications, and it provides contact information for the caller, so if for some reason it wasn't an emergency, we can pick up the phone and make a phone call to the complainant. If we have more information or more questions on our way to the call, if we need to do that, the officer can directly contact that complainant as well. One of the benefits, too, of shared information is the officers will be shown alerts. Alerts will pop up on their system for warnings that any of the agencies on the system may have put in there. So for individuals or vehicles involved in current cases, that's one of the warnings. If they're currently wanted or they're a career criminal, the sheriff's office puts in all the sex offenders in there. As a career criminal, we keep up with the address verifications and all that. That would pop up as if you got a suspicious vehicle at school. That would be good information to know right as soon as possible that you may deal with a sex offender. Or if there's any officer safety concerns, they've had previous run-ins with law enforcement to give the officer a warning or a heads up to be careful. And then you can also create your own non-emergency self-initiated call, so they don't have to necessarily get on the radio and call out. They pull up on an abandoned vehicle, they want to do an area check, type it in there, it's sent to the dispatch center, they know where you're at. All the information is shared on there, everybody knows where you're at that point. So it does cut down, cuts out the middleman almost for some of the non-emergency calls. There is a map on the system. It's interactive. It shows drops a pin on the location when you get dispatched to a call. You can click on the call. It'll give you directions, turn-by-turn directions to get there. Not as much of an issue in Statham, but larger agencies it may come into. Or if you have a new officer, sort of cheating, but that's available. And it also, but one of the important things is it shows the city boundaries. So if you're out on an accident on the highway, you're like, well, it's real close to the city limits. Am I in the county or am I in the city? You can zoom in and you can find exactly where you're at based on where the call is and the pin that's dropped on there. And it also shows the locations of other public safety units, including the sheriff's office, Winder, fire department, and EMS. So you'll know if they're nearby. Which you can determine how far your backup unit may be. You can quickly determine the location of the unit who's not answering the radio. You don't have to basically canvass the entire city. It'll show up on the map where they were last at. And it greatly assists in setting up perimeters around an incident, especially when you're trying to contain a suspect who's attempting to evade apprehension. You can see exactly where everybody's setting up at and sort of you can zoom in on the map and get a lay of the land as far as rivers, streams, lakes, water bodies, stuff like that. So that really helps a lot. And you can see the calls that are in the system, and whether they're active or pending, whether they're signed or not, or about to come out. So it gives you a heads up. Hey, this call's coming in, or it might be a med call that's in the city, but I'm right here around the corner. I can go swing by. A lot of times, for accidents with injuries or medical related calls, they're going to dispatch an ambulance first. And then another dispatcher is going to get on there and dispatch a police officer. Well, this is giving you a heads up. I have basic first responder skills. I can go maybe assist until the med unit can arrive. So it gives them, give them maybe an extra few minutes. That might be the difference in saving a life. And also assist in passing along useful information in real time, such as you have a suspect leaving the scene or a stolen vehicle in the county that's potentially coming towards the city. They may give them a heads up that, okay, I need to go ahead and keep a lookout for something like this. You also give, history that's available, your previous calls from the 911 center, whether it's inside the city or not. It gives an officer history of calls at specific address. I know with domestics, we'd like to know what's the history at this address. And with a click of a button, you can pull up all the calls, previous calls at that address and see if there is a pattern of domestic violence calls there or anything like that. Shows the key holder information, gate access information, alarm information, so that doesn't have to go over the radio. That can be right there at the officer's fingertips. And then any alerts that are tied to that location, which, aggressive dog or something like that, I might want to know before I go looking in their backyard for something, a suspicious person in the area. That address may have a dangerous call. And it does share information throughout all the agencies. So like I said before, we have all the data from the Sheriff's Office from Warren to PD right now, has all the dispatch data from Auburn Fire and EMS. You can see all the units that are logged in countywide. And there's actually a chat feature that anyone who's logged into the system, you're able to text back and forth. So whether it's a dispatcher, a Sheriff's Office unit, or a med unit or anything like that, which helps further reduce the radio traffic and then offers a secure communications option within the software itself. It gives access to the lookouts, the beyond the lookouts generated by dispatch and other law enforcement units. So you can see that information. You don't have to keep asking them for information. Or if you come in the next shift, you can pull it up and go, okay, they were looking at this last night. Nobody else has to print out a lookout for you to see it when you come into your shift. You have extra patrols and building watch requests in there, so if you have the GPS built in and you drive by a house, it'll pop up, there's an extra patrol request here. All right, well, let me go right through that area and take a look. And then it gives you access to all the local arrest warrant files and tracks activities associated with the outstanding warrants. And everything inside the system is logged and it's accessible to the officers, to the supervisors, to any type of public open records request or anything like that. But it gives the officer ability to go back and look at prior activities. If he needs a date or specific date or time that he did something, he can go back in there. The supervisors can go over all the activity that their officers have been doing. And then it also has an audit trail in case any questions come up where they need to look into, what was going on at that particular time. The field reports offers the officers to create their reports in the field, so they don't have to come back to the office, sit on the computer there. They can do it directly off their laptop, submit that to their supervisor. Supervisor gets it, an alert if there's new reports in there. They don't have to go to the office to pull that up, and then they can actually either approve it or send it back to the officer and put in specifics where, if there's any corrections that need to be made, they can go to that block and say, you need to do this, and send it back to the officer. So it keeps them out on the road where they're being visible and they're able to patrol better. And also takes all the information from the 911 generated call and adds that to the officer's report as well. So they don't have to retype everything, which reduces typos and increases the accuracy of the information that's in there. We always fat finger things. It happens. The idea of of these field reports is that you enter it once, and then from that point on, you cut and paste all that information in there, and bring it from a different source. So it's all basically one time you enter it, and then you don't have to type it again. It saves time, increases the accuracy on that. At the jail, they're able to go and generate an arrest report, which the jail booking officer will be able to see. That keeps them from having to fill out a handwritten form and turn that over. That'll give all the information, all the charges that they're bringing on the person, so there's no question on, you know, what we need to fingerprint them on, what we need to book them in on. And so, you know, it just streamlines that whole process. For the records itself, you have access to all the agency's cleared calls from the CAD system, all the finalized reports, the ability to sign reports to personnel for follow-up investigation, tracks property and evidence, contains the CAN reports for statistics and activity tracking, and tracks agency inventory and current locations and assignments of that equipment. And it creates and maintains the individual jackets, what we call jackets, on adults, juveniles, vehicles, and guns. So you can sort of keep track of everything that's going on with that. And also, all the state courts and prosecutors have access to this information, so it reduces the request for information for reports and stuff like that that your PD personnel have to fulfill. It's all permission-based, so you allow them to see certain things, and they can just pull it straight off of the system as well. It's a read-only type thing, but they do have access there. We've set that up for them for all of our stuff. So that's an option where you can share that to cut down on all those requests. And I don't know if you're familiar with NIVERS. It's the National Incident-Based Reporting System. All that is taken care of in the system. That's the state of Georgia requires all law enforcement agencies to report that to the FBI every month. The field reports are set up where it'll answer all your questions for that, and then at the end of the month or the beginning of the next month, you'll run a report. If there's any errors, it'll pop up on the errors, and fix those, and then it'll automatically build a report and send it to the FBI. It also does that for the state domestic violence report that they require, and if you do your accident reports on there, you're able to submit your accident reports to the state via the GEARS interface that we've already purchased. And to finish up, the current add-on models, everything, so whatever modules that Winder has purchased and the county has purchased, you will have access to as well, since we're all in the same system. So that opens up more options that you're not necessarily have to pay for. And right now we have almost a dozen current add-on modules in use, including data analysis and mapping, decision support software, case management for investigations, computer-aided investigations, career criminal registry, the narcotics management, demographic profiling, inventory equipment module, training module, property room barcoding, mugshots and photo lineups, and the license scanner interface. So all that, once you guys are live, will be accessible to the city officers as well. And that concludes my presentation. Yes.
So one question I have, right now, the system they have is basically standalone compared to this. How long does it take to get off the ground from the minute the agreement is signed to they have the same access and the same abilities?
So for us, we were close to a year because we had to build it and set it up for our how things work here. For you guys, all that stuff is built out. Basically, they'll have to come in, they'll have to do your specific field reports for state and police department. And I think they set up that portion for us a week. And it'd probably be less than that because they can basically copy what we have and just change the heading from Bear County Sheriff's Office to the state and police department.
Okay.
And put their logo on.
So it's going to be a question.
I won't say it's real quick. We are actually scheduled to upgrade to the newest version in August, More than likely, they're gonna wanna wait till after August to bring everybody on because we're moving to new servers, which will have more memory and stuff like that. So it sort of only makes, at this point, would make sense to wait until, middle of August when we do that. And then perhaps bring everybody, on board at that point or, shortly thereafter.
So probably October, November, somewhere around there.
I would think-
We'll be live if we-
Yes, at the latest, yes. And a lot of it does have to do with their resources, because they're the ones who have to get in there, and they are scheduled. They have calendars that may go out several months.
I asked Austin earlier before we got started, but you may know better. Will that integrate with their Axiom, tag readers, or do you, where if they just clicked on that, and it would go ahead and shoot the info over to the CAD?
Not as of right now, no. I don't know if any interfaces with that right now. They do have, we have the e-citations, so if we, that all is imported into the system, and with the new upgrade, it'll actually be available within the system itself, straight on the dispatch screen. If you want to start a citation, you wouldn't have to go to the other application, it would be right there, integrated with it.
Does the county have something like Axiom or Axiom?
For license plate readers, is that what it is?
Yeah.
We have several systems.
Do they interface with this?
They do not, no. Yeah.
Okay.
But,
So we wouldn't be any different on that aspect.
right, I wouldn't think so.
Eventually, I'm sure they'll come up with
I'm
something.
sure
that
they're
will,
always come up with new things, yes.
you know, make the job easier
It does.
and safer, I can see.
With the driver's licenses scanner, you can, actually, with the enforcement mobile, they have a scanner that you can, there's a YouTube video apparently out there. An officer does a traffic stop inside of 2 minutes, from the time he puts his motor officer puts his peg down, or his, now I'm at a loss for word. He stops the vehicle, walks up, he scans the barcode for the VIN plate, he scans the driver's license, he clicks what the violations are within 2 minutes, he has two citations that he's given me. So you wouldn't want to do it within 2 minutes, but they were just demonstrating how quickly that system could work as well. Sales purchase.
Do you have other questions on it?
Mayor, I got a couple of questions. I know the CAD data resides, obviously, at, I'm assuming, 911 data center. Where would Stateham's RMS data reside?
So all of our servers are at the 911 center, and that's where they're housed. But we do all have access, like we go through the sheriff's office network to get our information. Everybody's data is kept separately. So Statham would have their own individual data. We have ours. Winder has theirs. And CAD, has their own as far as the 911 calls are coming.
And the county's okay with housing our data? There's no issue there?
No, they'll request interoperability, or MOU, I'm sure. But, especially with the new servers, the county is very enthusiastic about getting, Statham as well as possibly Auburn coming on at some point. So everybody in the county is able to talk to each other and share the data.
And your servers are maintained by the county or by New World?
They're maintained by the county.
And I have a question, and it will be located at the 911.
Correct. Yes.
So as far as like NCIC, GCIC, well, really the GCIC audits, on our end, as far as the lookups go, but from a security and technology standpoint, what would we have to provide hardware-wise, do you know?
I don't think you would have to provide anything hardware-wise because it's in the 911 center, which is also covered by GCIC, and it's in a locked server room. So that part is secure. It's all key card access, anyways, you can get into the building. So
The software has its own built-in encryption for like connectivity.
I can't answer that.
Well, the only reason I ask is
Yes.
because a lot of times there's like a third-party piece, just speaking from experience, where you have to, somebody has to install that, and sometimes that's at a cost, for connectivity from like the car. one mobile unit back to your 911 center.
So there, for us, there's no extra cost. We can put any laptop, and add it as a GCIC terminal. So as long as that officer is logged in on his laptop, with secure password and username, he would have access to it. And, I know our TAC officer is very strict on how things are done, and, we haven't had any issues come brought up with the access, and no extra cost.
The last thing I got to ask you, since we're kind of talking about managing with the county, you guys are planning to stay with this for a while, with the management.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We've invested a good bit, and we actually just purchased several other additions recently, and we have our wish list as well, so we have no intentions on leaving them, for sure.
That's all I got there.
You answered my question, but I have an additional question about the training for the officers. How is that provided?
So they do provide on-scene training that is offered. Of course, you have to pay for the travel and you have to pay for the training. But I have advised them on the company as well as the police department that I'm willing to do as much of the training as I can do. I've already got training classes set up. I do it on a quarterly basis for mobile training with our guys for new recruits out of the academy and new hires for the road. So I'm already doing a quarterly training on a good portion of it.
You mentioned travel, where is it really located at with that? They would have to give the officers.
So, well, they'll come here. They're based out of Michigan, but they have employees all over. We just had a decision support training last week, and one of their trainers lives in Jefferson or Pendergrass. So we didn't have to pay for any airfare or anything like that. So they're just throughout the United States, but they come to you.
And then we reimburse them for the travel.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Any other questions?
I have a question, officer. When you said earlier that it drops a pin and it routes an officer to a call, does it have real-time traffic? Like, does it route around the?
No. Well, okay.
Not that that's important for statement, but.
Right. No. So it's not interfaced with like any of the GPS TomTom or anything like that, or Google Maps for that matter. But the dispatch center is able to go if they Highway 82 bridge that. They can go in there and put in the map that route is closed at that point. So if there is something of a more permanent closure, they can put it in there themselves.
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Thanks
I
for
didn't take too
taking
much
the
of your
time.
time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Those training costs, by the way, are included in that estimate that we've already, I don't anticipate additional.
Okay, great.
Hey, we would need to put this on the next voting agenda in order to get it out of this year's budget.
That's not a problem.
Mayor,
Make a note, they should have it on for the 20th.
That they will. Is that right?
Let me see what we scanned in.
Now, does that training, can it count towards y'all's yearly hours, like documentation and stuff?
As long as we have an instructor sign off on it or it does help, yes. Post credit, we always run out.
An email.
You know where my mind goes, man.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah, unless there's any other questions I can answer for you guys, the public hearing is finished.
Oh, something I was gonna, and this is my fault, I didn't even think about it till this afternoon, Mayor, the online bill pay system, is getting that going again, is that in this year's budget? I haven't seen anything, I don't know. what the startup cost for it would be?
My understanding is the only way to fix it is to go away from Harris.
Okay.
Harris made the choice to go to this, payment system. And when we found out that not only were they taking sometimes 3 weeks for the payment to come to us, and then we would have a water customer get shut off, and then we'd have to make adjustments. We also found out that they were sometimes hitting the customer for an additional $50 on top without the customer's knowledge, which $50 for an average person would put them in the red on their bank account.
Yeah.
And that was the point where we shut them down. And of course, it was a nightmare on the accounting part of it as well, because the system that Harris used to have, they never put in the fees. So whatever was deposited was what the amount was for the water customer. And the fees were transparent or they were invisible to the city. This company that Harris all of a sudden decided they were going with, they would put in the amount plus a fee in our bank account, and then they were also charging the customer sometimes $50. Then they would take those fees back in a lump sum, and the bank accounts didn't reconcile for 10 months. So, my understanding is Harris refuses to deal with the company we used to. So the only way to fix it is to go with somebody other than Harris, which I think was, Rachel, do you remember the company that we were entertaining, Edwards?
I believe that was Edmund,
Edwards, yes.
but I would like to have him put in that.
Yeah, but, you're talking, what, a year and a half for a transition?
Usually 12 months is appropriate.
Okay, plus, I don't remember the fee, what the amount.
I couldn't tell you that.
Yeah, I have paperwork that I could, of course, that was a year ago, but I could give you the information. But that's really the only way around it. They refused to work with, who were the companies, help me out here, for the point of sale. Who do we use that we won't use now, that Harris says? Elevon, but who was one before that?
Clover Connect through Harris.
What was it?
Clover Connect is who went up.
Clover Connect worked. Right.
Elevon is the one that worked.
Elevon, but they went from Elevon to Clover Connect, and it's been nothing but a problem ever since. But when I found out they were charging the customer for $50, couldn't figure out why. And they were reversing it, but like I said, that could be the difference of somebody's bank account going in the red. So that's what the problem is. Now we need to figure out if we're gonna change, but it's kind of like, QS1 was the software up until 2015 or 2016, and the city went with Harris, and everything was fine as long as they stayed with that point of sale. But that's the only way to fix it.
We don't know what, startup costs, transition costs for that new company.
I don't. Unfortunately, I'm just now diving into these deposit issues. We talked about it today even. But I would need to look at the analysis that was prepared, what parameters were given for those pricing quotes, to even know, it certainly matters how many funds that you bill in, like for property taxes, utilities, all of those things play a part in the costing of a financial ERP system. So I would need to look at those quotes that were received and to give you any sort of, educational or knowledgeable response.
I'm not trying to talk anybody out of that, but swapping over software like that is a beast of a
Yes.
project.
It's a big undertaking.
It takes a while, and
Did we have enough people utilizing that to where it would be beneficial? It's a convenience thing for most folks.
It is a convenient thing. I'm defer probably more to Aisha on that, since she sees those customers coming in every day and hears the feedback.
Do you get a lot of call-ins, payments over the phone? Well, the phone issue is just as bad, the IVR to pay off the phone, that's why we started the conversation today.
Yeah.
We have somebody who's been calling us this week that was making a $40 payment, and it came out of their account 5 times. But then on our end, we can only see 3 of it, even though it's 5 on her end, so it's just as bad. But yeah, if 10 people come in and make a payment in person, half of them are asking when will O-line be back working.
We've had a significant number that have signed up for auto draft. But I don't know the percentage.
Yeah, the auto draft did increase because the online stopped being an option.
But I'll get to what was in the file and also make sure that you have it.
Yeah,
But I know Edmonds was the one that I think we were going to present to the council as a possibility. But as you said, it opens up another nightmare because I know we got caught up in it, and there was a lot of businesses that got caught up in it when they went from QS1 to Harris. They didn't pick up all the tax records. So when they settled on my house, they did a search and it showed what was owed. The state paid it. We paid from that date to the end of the year into escrow. And then 2.5 years later, we come to find out there was 14 and 15 that wasn't paid, and it was during that transition. And one of the gas stations fell into that, where they bought. Another person bought it and found out 2 years later that he had 2 years of taxes, that he didn't even know the property, but when he bought the property, he bought the problem. So we really want to stay away from something like that, but if you change software, there's a good chance that it'll happen again.
The difficult part about changing software is the data. Fields are different in every software. Oftentimes, one will use SQL, another might use Oracle, that sort of thing. And all the fields, you have to go in and pretty much have to manually map each field to the new database that you're going to be using, and that's whenever it becomes very time consuming and things can kind of get lost in shuffle during that process. So it can be a very time consuming project. Obviously, this is a problem we got to fix some way somehow. I don't know the answer at this moment, but even if you decided as a city to go to new software, it's not going to be overnight for sure.
Yeah.
This is going to take a while, and there's going to be a lot of errors and issues you got to work out.
One of the problems we have with Harris is that you can't pick up the phone and call somebody. You have to open the ticket, and then it's at their mercy. When we've had things that wait 2-3 weeks, and you every time you go in, they open up a new ticket. So you have 3 tickets for the same issue, and so it's like, where does it go? I mean, there's
no tracking.
Yeah, I mean, and I've tried, and I've sent an email, and we'll open a ticket.
And the upgrade is definitely overdue. I mean, we definitely need to upgrade that ERP system, there's not a doubt. I would just like to make it more careful and thoughtful approach, and just talk a little about long-term strategic goals and what the plans are for the city. I've worked with Edmonds and other municipalities. I've worked with Tyler and BSA and all these other different systems, and they all have pros and cons. Billing and collecting your property taxes does limit your options in the ERP system. Some are just don't handle that well. So that's something that certainly limits those that you can entertain. So there's things like that we just want to talk about as long-term goals of the city and what those mean and what that looks like, and make sure we get a software that's compatible with that. Those discussions we need to have as coming up. But that's where we're going to solve it. We'll
take a look at it.
Good enough. I guess we just need to see some price on stuff. We'll burn that bridge when we get to it.
Are there other questions on the budget? Or anyone that signed up has questions on the budget to the public hearing?
Tim Sorelli, 1980 Broad Street, Statham, Georgia. Thank you guys for giving me a minute to speak about this. I am representing the Statham Tree and Beautification Committee and Green Space Beautification Committee. If you look at page 3, under 112 Legislative Committees, we have $9,000 budgeted. I spoke last budget hearing requesting $12,500. I've sent out a email itemizing it, and I can send that out again, or if you guys want the hard copy, I have that. Thank you so much for removing our responsibility of paying for removing trees, and is that happening Wednesday, Councilman Patterson?
Yep, happens tomorrow at 8:30.
Okay. I do appreciate that being removed out of our budget. Well, we are planning a fall planting next spring. We'll do the same planting that we had out here. We'll have trees that we're planting in November. Several projects that we have planned. I also sent a committee report, emailed a committee report to you guys. I'm more than happy to take a hard copy if you want. But that's it. If you want to leave it at 9,000, that's fine. We'll work with it, but the request is for 12,500.
Tim, I looked at this wrong, on this front sheet. That's my fault, because I know you spoke to me, I told you personally that we had increased it to 12,000, but after looking at it, that 12,000 is for tree removal in your account. So I glanced over that, and I was incorrect.
That's cool.
I think if the tree removal isn't in there, I think the 9,000 for this year might be reasonable. Next year it can possibly be increased as the revenue goes up.
Sure.
You know, if it were 15,000 and 12 of it goes for tree removal, it would eat it up quite quickly. But we did try to come to a compromise on it. So, speaking with Rachel about it, you know, as she said in one of the hearings, there's wants and there's needs, and you know, until we get things a little more reserves set up, then we can increase that as the time goes on. I wouldn't have an issue with that. But any tree removals, I guess, will come out of the city budget. Now, I'm not sure about this for fiscal 23, exactly where that fund's coming from, if we borrowed or how we did it, because, George, you remember what the bottom line is? It's gonna be 54 or something.
Exact number.
Okay.
Yeah, upper fours, mid fives,
So, and that's including trunk grinding.
Double over here.
So,
Well, I think that's about all that's left in the budget anyway, so. Sweet. All right, thank you, guys.
and when are you planning on doing another in the fall?
Yeah, probably before Thanksgiving, once it cools off. We would like to plant trees on Railroad, like past the shortstop going towards 8th Street.
Jordan on that, and make
Just
sure.
to, give a little sound buffer, give some shade. It would be great to get a sidewalk on Railroad. I see a lot of people walking out there. It'd be awesome to have a sidewalk, have some shade trees out there. We also, part of our committee is if a tree is removed, we try and replant it, whether it's at the parks, either the parks or somewhere in town. So that's also part of that budget also. So we know that two are coming down this week. So we'll find a place to plant 2 more.
All
right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Does anyone have any changes that they, when they reviewed this?
Mayor, I have a couple of questions. I don't know that it can actually be answered tonight. I know we spoke about water funds, ARP funds, and that sort of thing. And maybe we don't necessarily have to allocate those funds now, but, you know, with each passing day, get a little closer to that deadline where we have to make a decision for that and what we're going to do with it. So that's, I don't know if anybody's got any input on those funds and what they want done with them. And there's also that money there for the previous council had earmarked for well development. I think 260-some-odd thousand, I believe, that was there. So, you know, talking with Rachel last time, we would have to set that aside for, if you want to continue with going down that path, then you'd have to set that aside for that and allocate the monies for that as part of this process. Or if the council wanted to do something else with it. So those two things, we definitely, I think, need some discussion and not to put Jordan on the spot, but I know he was getting some pricing information for the 2 areas on Broad Street, and of course, I talked with Jordan the other day, and there's another area on Broad Street, I believe it's right in front of the Buffington's house, is that right?
The plate.
That's got the area that needs to be repaired. And then we talk about maybe patching the areas on that highway as well.
I'm still waiting on quotes for Atlanta Highway.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
still waiting on quotes for Atlanta Highway.
All right, so, I know, I think Scotty mentioned earmarking that $148,000 for, paving project, I believe it was Scott.
Yeah.
And it's listed here, but, you know, I don't know what that would cost, since we're still waiting on quotes. But you feel pretty confident that we can get those 2 or 3 areas patched on, like 8 Broad and Province and Broad and the plate on the Little Atlanta Highway for that amount of money, since we're doing Hayes Lake this year?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So, yeah, if we can get those 3 areas on Broad and bad spots on Atlanta Highway covered for that 148, I think we're good. And as far as what I would like to see done for the roads this year.
And then however far that's going to take us, I mean, just to get those, what's been talked about done, and see what's left after that. See the size of the project and go from there. Not say if it's small, just get approval and go for it. Small stuff, just go ahead and do it, or a little bit bigger jobs if we got the money for it. See what council decides. Which job to do.
And, I don't know if anybody else has any input on roads and water, but I know those.
I feel like we do need to set up money aside for the water. We haven't made a decision yet, what our plans are for that, but, we do need to set that aside. We need to come up with a plan, I do believe we need to, as you, put that aside for future for the water. and come up with what we're gonna do on a year-to-year basis to get the project completed, whatever it is, give you all this money.
As far as, Rachel, maybe you might not be able to answer this question, I don't know. How detailed do we need to be, how specific do we need to be as far as allocating these ARPA funds to a project? Does it need to be a specific project, say, replace water lines in this area, or can we just say, we're gonna use it for water?
I think it'd be in between the two. I don't think you have to identify a specific project, but a type of project, meaning, water line replacement or whatever that case may be. I can get some clarification on that for you. Actually attended some ARPA training just a week before last, and it was very informational. I can reach out to them and get some clarification from that, so good resource.
That, 267,000 or whatever, is that in a specific account?
So right now it is set aside, it will remain set aside for that purpose until y'all
So
reallocate.
it's not in the general fund?
That's correct, it
It's
is set aside as a
protected.
water fund.
Okay, because it started out as 312, 313, and then we used some of it.
$270,205.
Okay, with the 200 and something is interest.
So something I did the 3 days I was at GMA, and I was aggravating Sherry Bailey. She said that now they have changed the rules on those ARPA funds again to where you can go back and reclassify something, I can't remember what it was, and that'll broaden up your ability to,
It
you
was
did
a
it?
deadline,
Okay.
and I had 1 day to do it, and I figured, so we could possibly say water line, restoration and water exploration, for instance, and then, 6 months later, you say, okay, well, we've refined what we want to do and change your mind. The way it was for us, water or sewer. And
Okay.
so we did meet that deadline because I talked to Sherry about it, and Rachel helped me get that accomplished.
Okay, yeah, she said she was on to come and make sure that we had that clarification on it, that way we could.
Yeah, and I think we got it right on the front. So, yeah, so it gives us a little bit of leeway and not so stringent. And then it also, I think, the way Sherry explained it, if you do change your mind, you're not locked in, and you can actually use it for, replacement of funds that you used on a particular project.
Okay.
So,
Just definitely something that, we almost said we ignored it, but we gotta give it some thought and get some kind of idea of what we want to do with it.
Well, I'll say either next month or August, we can tack that onto a work session, actually dig into it.
Can we get any input from you, Jordan, as far as where Major League is? I mean,
The entire
What do you want to do?
miles.
I know.
Where you want to start, so.
Go over here to the
Yeah.
market and go 3 miles.
I think we gotta start somewhere,
So-
here to here, and try to find somewhere that we can afford.
I mean,
That's gonna be the thing, is what, money-wise, what can we do with money?
Right.
What can we start a project in with, or what several small ones can we do and actually complete it? So,
Yeah, but we gotta have a plan on
Start.
the highest, the lowest, and then, figure out from there.
Right.
we also found out that there is, I believe, a grant, and we're gonna be talking to somebody about that.
That is for those,
But it requires work to do it.
that is for the leaded service line inventory that's
Yeah,
being required by EPA.
yeah, but it could help us get grant money to help with some of this, correct? Or did I misunderstand what you
Yes.
were saying?
Through chief of,
Yeah, yeah.
that's totally
But
different.
you have to do that inventory first, and which they'll have to do potholing to see what type of line is there. And they can tell if it's lead or
Go along the
copper.
highway.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna do this in people's hearts.
They ask, I mean, it does require a test from the, not just from the main to the meter, it's from the main, or, yeah, from the main to the actual foundation of the house. So,
I mean, every time the pipeline comes, work on something, I just destroy the road, so let them come do it.
I'm sorry to do this, but I'm gonna throw another one at you. I know we discussed,
You get paid by the hour.
at the last budget meeting, we discussed that, sewer bond. Have you had a chance to look into that at all? It was basically the one with all the high interest across,
The debt
25
payment, the
Yeah.
debt, I have not looked at that yet. I will get a copy of that agreement and look at that agreement and look at it. Our next payment is June 30th. Actually, it's June, I think we've already made the June payment. So we would be looking to, additional pay in December. But I will get something. Remember.
Any other questions about the budget or changes? All right. Well, if there's no objection, we call for adjournment.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah,